few minutes of time to talk a little bit about digital from a marketer's perspective. So I'm Director of Marketing with Braves. I've been here about 3 years in somewhat of a generalist capacity, if that term even applies. But I want to talk today about how digital has transformed how we think from a marketing perspective, how it's informing brand, how it's giving us new visibility and insights, and how it's really enabling a different form of communication. So before we talk about current state of affairs, I want to take a quick view at our history from a marketing standpoint. So historically, we've had a ton of different terms that involve marketing: traditional, consumer, database, digital. And digital has been kind of one of those buckets or one of those silos. Today, it really informs all that we do, and it's at the hub of everything marketing related. But historically, from a traditional standpoint, TV spots, billboards, print ads, I mean, that's kind of your typical traditional marketing. Consumer was promotion and experiential, database, CRM, email, analytics, how can we connect one-on-one with the customer. And the digital was siloed into social and web and mobile and all things quote-unquote digital in nature. But digital is really no longer distinct. I'm sure you guys know that. You've experienced it. You've probably heard it a number of times this morning. And it's really because it's real-time, it's customizable, it's measurable, and it's pervasive. So for us, digital is marketing, and marketing is digital. So you look at kind of the spoken wheel model. Historically, you had things like CRM, customer service, advertising, research, content, that all funneled into a marketing capacity. And now for us, digital is enabling all of those in a much greater capacity. So for example, I want to look at a few of the ways that we've changed our philosophy. So research. Previously, we had separated research into kind of traditional and digital buckets. So traditional research for us was, how do we look at segmentation, maybe from a 1 year to 2 year standpoint. So we would do surveys and research and studies in order to gather a bunch of insights, put them into a deck, hopefully find 5 key segments that can inform next year's campaign, and then start to move forward with our more or less traditional campaign based on those segments. And then you had digital with a heavy emphasis on testing and learning, modifying, kind of real-time optimization, and then the flexibility to double down on what's working. But those philosophies were somewhat at large, and somewhat at odds. So for us now, with a digital-driven approach to everything, not just digital siloed, but marketing as a whole, we're able to funnel ongoing digital insights into our thinking. And that really impacts all forms of media. So you think about from a creative perspective. We now know what works, what doesn't, messaging-wise, visual. We're able to look at kind of real-time social data to tell us what's enabling engagement, what's truly moving the needle, not just hoping and praying that a TV spot works or that billboards work, but being able to actually establish some ongoing metrics in real time that don't just inform what we do on the social perspective or from a social perspective, but really inform marketing as a whole. That allows us to improve our engagement and really maximize ROI as well. So for example, and I've got a couple of case studies as we look at each of these facets, but this is actually some research that we've gathered from a media perspective. So this was not a study that we commissioned, but as we're doing more display media, as we're doing more programmatic, retargeting, we're able to then gather insights that tell us not only demographics and geographic, but interests, behaviors, things that may inform our media strategy moving forward, but also may inform from a corporate partnership perspective. Is there low-hanging fruit that we should go after? From a content standpoint, are there interests that our fans have that maybe we can explore and do some storytelling around? So it's not just how do we optimize media, but really how do we optimize marketing through a unique lens into media. So looking at traditional media, for example, again, I'm kind of going around the spoken wheel. Media is the second example. Historically, we siloed a lot of our forms of media. media. So we operate currently off of a POSE mentality, paid, owned, shared, and earned forms of media. And really 5, 6, 7 years ago, paid was what marketing did through advertising. Owned, as digital became a thing, you had the digital team that was responsible for the web, for the app, etc. Those were our owned assets, and they managed those. Shared was the responsibility of social, because obviously we're engaging, and we want to create shareable experiences. And then earned was on the PR side. We had siloed that off, and it was more or less PR's responsibility to go after media outreach. So we still operate off of POSE, but it's a collaborative effort, and digital is at the center of that. So it allows us to optimize our pay, to integrate our own efforts so that the customer journey is front of mind in all forms of communication that eventually lead to digital. All of the experiences we're creating are shareable, and we through the collective marketing effort, we want to leverage influence and really go after influence in a way that, sure, PR can help with that, but we can create experiences, we can create opportunities that actually connect to those that are influencers that are able to then, in return, share. So we've got a couple of examples here. You guys may have seen this video from earlier in the year. What's interesting about this is it was informed by business strategy. So as we were about to open a new ballpark, the question of parking and transportation was front of mind. I mean, that was on everyone's mind. How am I going to get to the ballpark? Are there going to be enough spaces? I know that 285 and 75 are right there at the crux of traffic in Atlanta. So is this really going to work? And so from a marketing perspective, we didn't want to lean solely on the media to tell that story. We wanted to, in effect, be our own media organization. And so this is an example of something that we did.
Been a while since I've done one of these.
It's been 7 years since you retired.
Are you making a comeback?
You funny, man.
I noticed the Braves hat. Are you a fan?
Definitely not been a Braves fan since I was little.
What do you think of the new ballpark?
I got a tour a while back. Sum it up. It was great. Had a great time.
We've heard parking may be an issue.
Parking? The best franchise in all of baseball. And we're in here talking about parking. What are we talking about? I know we're not talking about parking.
Is it going to be a hassle to get to these games?
Got 14,000 spaces. This was a joke.
It's an important issue to the fans.
I know it's important. But we worried about parking. Not the game, but parking. Look, I know you got a plan. Man.
One more question, guys.
Parking.
Sorry about that. I think it's hot all of a sudden.
Try this one.
Better. So obviously that was Allen Iverson, former number 3. He had the big practice rant from years back, so we were able to kind of leverage that as a core concept and really just creating awareness that, yes, when it comes to parking, we have a plan. That was not the medium to communicate all of the ins and outs of what that plan was, but really to drive awareness, and it worked. In a 24-hour span, we had upwards of 12 million impressions from that video alone. There was really no media involved in releasing. We released through our own channels, and then media picked it up, made SportsCenter, Bleacher Report, SI, etc. And it accomplished its goal. And the beautiful thing about this is that we actually backed it up. The message of parking, why are we talking about parking? We did have a plan, and if you've been to SunTrust Park, you've seen that plan in action. But back to kind of the core of what we're talking about here, digital, we lean heavily on all forms of digital to drive that message. So yeah, it was informed through some insights that we had on an opportunity that we could go after, and then we distributed and really became our own media organization through it. This is another example. So we talked this year in recap of 2017. We had 4 SportsCenter moments from a business perspective. Things that we communicated to our fan base that in effect SportsCenter picked up. And none of those were through media being involved on the onset. We released them, we concepted, released, and then it was picked up by SportsCenter. So this is a story of a kid named Jace Blaylock, 13 years old, from Peachtree City. His team competed in the Southeast Region Finals of the Little League World Series, and he hit a 400-plus foot home run in one of the games. So it was a big national story, but he's from our own backyard. So, we obviously caught the chatter through social and invited him out to see if he could hit a home run at SunTrust Park. So here's what happened. So obviously he hit a home run, 420 footer. SportsCenter picked it up, Bleacher Report, MLB's channels, SI, etc. And no media was invited out. So we captured that for our own social channels, put it out there. And as you guys know, I mean the media landscape doesn't require a reporter or a camera or a crew to be there. I mean, that's just kind of the speed of communication through a digital lens. But what's interesting is from an organizational perspective in terms of kind of how we're structured, it was led by marketing influence through digital. So it's really kind of, it gives you a vantage point of how digital is at the core of not just digital channels from an own perspective, but really of marketing and PR as well. So the last example I have is content. So previously, as we were creating new forms of content, primarily video, there was a kind of a segmentation. So we would concept, script, and produce TV spots at the beginning of the year that would help us launch our campaign, and then we produce TV spots through the rest of the year as well. And those were always produced separate from digital forms of content. So on the digital side, it's like, yeah, we'll let those guys create their own videos that either make it on Braves.com or they get shared through social. Currently, with a digital-driven approach, informed by social insights, aligned with the marketing calendar. So we obviously have objectives. We've got bobblehead nights and concerts and theme nights and promotions that we're really trying to promote. How can we effectively do that through content? So it's less of a, let's create this TV spot for TV, let's create these videos for social. How can we create compelling content that our fans are going to want? Because we know it's informed by social insights. That can then be applied and adaptable across our communication channels. So we've kind of applied, basically a three-pronged format to creating video content: super short form, and long form. And those formats give us the ability to distribute content uniquely across all forms of channels, traditional and digital. So from a super short form perspective, that's primarily digital media, where you're trying to really capture someone's attention in 2, 3, 5 seconds in order to engage them and guide them down the path. Short form, digital media, social, TV, 30-second spots, for example. Long form is really social and web, and that's what gives us the platform to tell stories that may be 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes long, because we have something compelling that our fans are actually going to want to see. So here's an example of a video that we produced, just a new form of content. And I'll talk after you see it about how we apply that across channel. So the strategic impetus behind this was, now that we've got the battery at our disposal, it's changed the experience for our fans. There's more to do before and after games. And we wanted to weave that into our story. So it wasn't just about our players, it wasn't just about our schedule, but it was about the experience that you have here, not just in SunTrust Park, but in the battery lane. So created a video. There's actually a 60-second version that was the long form that we used primarily through social and web. This 30 was produced for TV. We also used it in digital media. We had a 15-second version as well for some shorter forms of digital. So it was concept that led to adaptable forms of video content. And that's really, from a digital perspective, it's changed how we look at content. So, the recap, I wish I had more time, but just wanted to kind of give you a glimpse as to how digital is reshaping our marketing organization. Like I said before, digital is marketing. So in effect, if you've gone down a digital path for your studies in school, for your career potentially, I just want to remind you that you're a marketer. It's not a niche that you're carving in digital. You actually have an opportunity to change the marketing landscape. We've changed considerably as a marketing organization over the last 12 months, 24 months. Things are evolving on the fly. And so don't feel like you're boxed into a specialized digital role. Think about digital and all forms of digital, even looking at the spoken wheel from earlier, CRM and social and research and media, as opportunities to influence more than just that channel, but to influence thinking at a bigger level, at a marketing level, and really at a business level. Our business leans heavily on marketing, and therefore digital is kind of the underpinnings of all that we do from a marketing perspective. So thanks for giving me the time to present. So with the last few minutes that we have, I want to bring Greg back up, and we actually want to talk a little bit about a trainee program that we have with the Atlanta Braves that's been in place for years. It's a really cool opportunity for folks kind of in your seat who are thinking about the future, thinking about how to parlay college experience and learnings into the starting of a career. So I want to hand it over to Greg and have him talk a little bit about what that looks like.
Great, thank you. So we've got Laura Juris, who runs our HR department, members from our HR team. They're actually going to come up in a second and talk about the logistics of the trainee program. But before we do that, we have two former trainees who are actually now full-time employees with the Atlanta Braves. For them to share a little bit about their experience as a trainee here with the Braves. The trainee program is a 10-month program for college graduates. It'll start in January and runs through November, and applications for next year's class just happen to open up on October 1st. One of the things about working in sports and really working in any industry nowadays is experience is paramount, and a lot of ways to get that experience is through internship programs. So this program is a perfect way to gain experience working in a sports organization, learning about the inner workings of every department, everything from marketing to ticket sales to community affairs, guest services. You really get a really sort of intertwined view of how a front office works, and really applicable skills that you can use in a future career in sports, or something that can be applicable in a non-sports realm. So without further ado, Victoria Klein and Jamie Kaufman, why don't you guys come up and maybe just quickly say your background, where you went to school, what your major was, how you got the trainee position, but really specifically just talk about the trainee position, what you guys learned, and all that.
Of course. Hi everybody, how are you? So I'm Jamie Kaufman. I went to the University of Alabama, and right out of college, my major, telecommunications and film. I wanted to be the next Erin Andrews. Obviously that didn't happen. So I always knew I had a passion for sports and wanted to work in sports. So I heard about the training program, kind of took a leap of faith and moved to Atlanta, hoping I would get a chance to be a trainee. Interviewed for the game entertainment trainee position and ended up getting that. So worked really hard for 10 months. In the trainee position, they act like you are a full-time employee. This game entertainment, marketing, all of these departments cannot function without these trainees. So that was a great opportunity for me. And then the marketing coordinator position came open, and I made great relationships in the office and made that a priority for myself. So when a position did come open in another department, they reached out to me, and I applied for that position and ended up getting it. So I don't think, obviously, I would be where I was without the training position. And I think the best part about this program is it makes you decide if this is a passion that works for you. If you want to, dedicate your career to baseball, because some people, it's too much of a commitment and it's not where they want to, put their effort into. But for Victoria and I, it was something that we fell in love with, and obviously are still here today. So.
Awesome. So I actually started this. Jamie and I were trainees together. We just finished our 5th season here. Victoria Klein, I'm actually the senior coordinator of digital marketing here. I started out as the interactive marketing trainee back in 2013, and I was actually the first ever digital trainee we had here and had no digital experience coming in, which is crazy to see this whole room full of all of you who have all this knowledge and experience coming in, and I'm glad that I was then and this is now, because you would all definitely have gotten this job ahead of me 5 years ago. I graduated from the University of Tennessee with aspirations of also being Erin Andrews, knew I loved sports and wanted to talk about sports. Also realized very quickly I am not objective about my teams. I all think they're the best. I cannot say bad things about them, so the media route wasn't the right fit for me, so I knew I needed to go team side. Did a couple of different internships, football, basketball, kind of jumped around, saw this opportunity. Actually, a former employee here who also went to the University of Tennessee, I knew she worked here, told me about the trainee program. I applied in 2013 and spent the season here doing all things digital and social, and was lucky enough to get hired on full time and have been here ever since. And it's crazy how much the digital landscape has changed in just those 5 years. Just to echo what Jamie said about the trainee program, it's real life experience. And I think the best part about it is you learn a lot about whatever department you're in. If digital is your passion, if marketing is your passion, game entertainment, ticket sales, corporate partnerships, there's a whole slew of departments that I'm sure Laura and her team will walk you through. And you get to get that real life experience. And I think the two best things are, one, you get this experience that makes you ready for a full-time job. I feel like our trainees, myself included, Jamie and I had left, but our trainees now are getting ready to start applying for jobs, go through that process, and they can walk into an interview and say, I did this, I owned this, I was responsible for this. This is not a make copies and get coffee internship, as they say. It's a really great experience, so I would definitely encourage all of you to look at all the different opportunities that we have and ask us any questions if you have them. So, awesome. Laura, yours.
Thank you. So it's easy for me to talk about the training program because I can point to these 4 individuals and say, how many people in this room would like to work with them? Raise your hand, right? You can talk about it often as our organization, and again, I'm Laura Juris, I'm the Senior Vice President of Human Resources here. I've been in baseball 20 years, so when I first started in baseball, we stood behind home plate with a radar gun, and there was nothing that we're talking about today that existed. So you can see how quickly our industry changes. I think also that I would say one of our core values, as evidenced by being here in the Battery, is innovation. And so what Greg had started out from the beginning is so true, is that you already have the educational background, and the part that I would say as a human resource individual that you need is that ability to change the landscape here, and that involves some critical thinking and the ability to work for 10 or 11 months with the caliber of people like Greg or Brad, Jamie, and Victoria is priceless. And that's why we feel strongly about this program. So as Greg mentioned, the applications go live on October 1st. It's only for 2 weeks. Raise your hand if you are a recent college grad then. Anyone? Okay, so some of you maybe. You have to be a recent college graduate, but you can go online and take a look at it. In my group, and I'm going to have them stand up right here, Megan is in the red, Jordan is in the blue, and Ashley's in the gray. We will be here also, and I know you're trying to break, we're a little bit behind, but we can certainly answer any questions on how that works. But I would encourage you to go online to braves.com/trainee, and you can look at the descriptions of all of those positions. I know a lot of you probably will be focused on the marketing or the digital world. But we would look forward to talking with any of you, even if it is now. Come visit us next season, as Brad said, and we can let you talk with the likes of Victoria and Jamie and Greg and Brad, so you can find out a little bit more of our organization. So thanks for your time, and we'll look forward to speaking or maybe working with you in the future.
All right. Again, thank you. you so much to the Braves for hosting us here. We are in awe of this beautiful facility and appreciate you all hosting us. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the lunch plans really quickly.